Hi, hello, freaks and friends. Jessie here, aka Good Witch Yoga. And I am here to offer us some heart expansion tonight, or today, or tomorrow, or whenever it is you're watching this. I have been doing less physical practice and more emotional, spiritual yoga practice the past few weeks, which, if you're a person who has practiced yoga for many years or has studied yoga with different teachers or different lineages, you probably are familiar with that own ebb and flow in your body of sometimes we're on the mat, we're in the pose, we're upside down, we're doing things. And sometimes what we're actually doing when we practice is being with ourselves, whatever that means. So I've jokingly, not jokingly said many, many times that sometimes not doing yoga is doing yoga. And that if the point of this practice really is a spiritual pursuit of the interconnectedness of us all, that it's different for everybody. And that it's what is different about us and our experiences that connects us. It's not that we're all the same. It's not that we're all supposed to do the same things. It's that we are all doing that on our own, perfectly imperfectly. The Bhagavad Gita says that it is much better to do your own dharma, your own work in this world imperfectly than to perfectly do the work of someone else. And right now in our world, a lot of us don't know what we're supposed to do. Like, what is our job? What is my role? What should I be doing, or what shouldn't I be doing? And good, I'm glad we're looking and asking ourselves, and sometimes that means we're just listening, and sometimes that means we're processing, and sometimes it means we're resting, and sometimes it means we're active. And the card I pulled for myself when I was prepping for class today was strength. And if you're not familiar with the strength card, if you want to pause the video and look it up, or pull out your own deck and take a peek at the strength card, it might feel nice to take a few minutes or a moment or two to look at the imagery on the card, to sit and think about what it means to you before I talk about what it means to me right now. Because just like this practice, tarot is also for the reader or for the person being read for, and it is just a tool like a hatha yoga practice for a greater introspection and I don't know, something you can't really maybe even explain to other people. So one of the things about the strength card that felt really powerful for me when I pulled it is that this card talks about how there's a balance in strength, that it's not all push, that it's not all bite, that there is a softness that is how we become strong. Or oftentimes this card will get, when this card comes up, we'll talk about mind, body, and spirit working in harmony for whatever the situation is, or working towards a balance or a homeostasis. So for example, the same tool does not work for every job. The same people don't work for every student. People, did I say people? Teachers? I don't know. We don't need to be everything. We can do us, even imperfectly, to the best of our ability, and that's what we should be doing. So sometimes it feels like when we look around and we see people doing things that we're not, whether it's on the yoga mat or it's out in the world, we think, oh, am I not doing enough? And that's a good question to ask yourself, like a real question to ask yourself. Am I not doing enough? And if the answer is no, maybe looking at like, not necessarily like if you're doing like getting out of the binary and instead shifting towards am I doing me the best I can? Am I trying to do someone else's job? And so then that got me thinking about backbends, which are an area of my yoga practice that have always come very easy because of how my body is made up. But something that I learned over the years of backbending was that when the parts of my body that are already really good at moving or doing something are always the body parts that get the focus, that the other parts of my body that actually are going to give me more strength, more power, more expansiveness in my body are getting actually like less and less and less because these other parts are getting like overworked or over focused on. If you've ever done a back bend in a yoga class afterwards, you're like, ow, my low back. Like, it's because that's the part of your back that moves the best, and you're a human animal that wants to do good. Your body's set, you get offered a shape and your brain goes, oh, maybe I could do the shape. And you're clever and you'll figure it out. But it could be clumsy, you could get hurt. And over time, it might not be providing the benefits you were seeking in the first place, which is expansive heart opening, which, if we're going to be esoteric about it, is like a really radical practice and a really necessary one to crack ourselves open over and over and over again is, I don't know, it's really powerful. And I think people get afraid to crack themselves open this way because they're like taking it in the wrong spot. Does that make sense? That might not make sense. I don't know, take it or leave it. I have my friend Bone Cold Steve Austin here with me today, my little anatomy skeleton friend. And I brought him to show sort of a little bit of what's going on in our backs when we talk about quote unquote back bending. So if you look at my little friend here from the side, you can see that from where the rib cage is at the bottom of the skeleton to where the hip bones are, at the top of the hips, that in between there's like no other bones, right? There's just your spine. I don't know why I'm holding his hand like this, but it's cute, right? That there's only spine here. So this part of your back is the most mobile, right? And I'm sure you can relate to that. That this part of your back moves without very much like integrity because there isn't a lot, maybe not with integrity, I mean, yes, but that part of your back really needs more support. It's already hypermobile. So if we're looking at our spines from this strength card perspective, like maybe we don't need more soft to protect this part of the body. Maybe we need more support. Maybe we need more fortitude. Maybe, a situation that feels really emotionally charged needs more mental focus, right? Not more feeling. So this can happen in our backs, that this part that moves the easiest is the part that goes, ooh, let me help. I already know how to move. But when we're going to apply this idea of like effort and ease to moving in our backs, we actually want to bring more mobility and focus our mobility on the upper back and shoulders where less movement usually occurs for people. and then focus on rooting down and providing a stable base for that heart openness to expand in the upper part of the body, which we'll play around with. So if you're like, oh, don't worry, I know I talk a lot. Okay, bone cold. Great. So we're gonna play around with that, and hopefully you'll have some fun backbending tonight. We're gonna get after it. So if backbending's not your favorite, this might not be the video for you. We are gonna use a blanket to start with a chest and shoulder opener. So if you have a towel or if you have a yoga blanket, great. But we're gonna, I'm gonna take my blanket and open it up and roll it along the long folded edge. And you can play around with how thick of a roll your blanket or towel has, but I will tell you that it doesn't have to be huge. Like, you don't want to have it so big that you can't breathe or that you feel uncomfortable, so take that for what it's worth. And we're gonna put the blanket down towards the back end of our yoga mat, and it's gonna go under the bottom tips of your shoulder blades. So actually, since I've got him here, if you look at bone colds, these are scapulae. They are your shoulder blades. So this bottom tip of your shoulder blade across the bottom here, or like if you can imagine where someone's sports bra might be on the back, that's kind of another landmark people know about. But not the low back. So we just talked about that. We don't want to give more bend to the low back. It's got plenty. Oh, it might feel like that sounds when you get there. Oh. And it shouldn't feel pinchy or stabby in your low back. It should feel like maybe some chest and shoulder opening, some upper back stuff. But if it's too intense in the low back, or if your arms don't come to the floor, even if when you bend your elbows, come on up and unroll your blanket a little, and then come back down on a smaller roll. Believe it or not, you'll get a deeper back bend with a smaller roll if your arms don't come to the floor completely, because you want to meet yourself where you are. You can keep your knees bent with your feet on the floor, or you can straighten your legs out in front of you, whichever feels better. Take a couple of deep breaths in and out. It might feel good to flutter the lips. Make cawing sounds, apparently. I'm a fan of a good scream, so if you just want to let it out, let it out. And see if you can focus on the sound of your breath. Without worrying about deepening your breath or changing it, just listen. I think we're so inclined to act before we observe, even in our own bodies. So before you get in there and, fix it, just take a moment to listen and see, what is even going on here today? I want to point out that what we're experiencing right now, this listening, this sort of internal, we call it interoception, like looking at what's happening inside your body, that it's happening right now in a passive place. We are receiving when we listen. So here with the blanket or the towel or whatever prop you've got under your shoulders, see if you can move to that more receptive place. Instead of saying I'm doing this to my shoulders, see if you can be blanket is offering my shoulders support. Like, you don't have to do anything. We're just paying attention. Notice what that feels like in your body, to be in a receptive listening place. We're going to do a lot more active back bending tonight, and that is going to require like a different set of skills. And it's one that you're going to know how to use because you listened first. You know, if you hand someone a hammer and you don't tell them about nails, like, what are they going to use the hammer for? Like, who freaking knows? But when you know what you're trying to use your tools for, you have a better idea of, like, you know, what's going on. And so give yourself just a few more breaths here to just receive, to melt. Maybe sigh out big. And we're going to come off the blanket and down onto our backs, so you can roll over to the side and move the prop out from under you. I'm going to like put my blanket under my head because I enjoy luxury, but you can just get rid of it altogether if you want. And then come all the way back down onto the floor. Take a few breaths. Now that we've spent a little bit of time paying attention to a part of our back that I think most people need more movement in. Most people need more softening, more heart opening. Like, what does it feel like to be in your body now that you've paid attention to a part of you that maybe needed you to listen? When you're ready, draw your knees into your chest. You can either hold in front of your shins or behind your thighs and rock around a little bit. Keep your right knee into your chest. Let your left leg come down to the floor. You can move your right leg around a little bit. And then hold either behind your right thigh, or you could hold around your big toe, or if you've got your blanket or like a strap, you could use your blanket or a strap to hold your foot. I'm just gonna stretch the right leg. I'm gonna encourage you to extend and flex your knee by engaging your muscles. So that might be easier to accomplish by first doing it without your muscles and being like, okay, that's just joint. That's just, you know, what the bones do. What happens when you try to use your muscles to straighten up towards the ceiling? I don't know if like you're looking at the camera right now, but if you did, my leg is shaking because I'm using the muscles to do this action. Oh, it's so hard to do. Bending the knee might be harder than straightening it if you're keeping an active leg. And just notice the difference between like focusing on strength from a like, okay, if the knee and the leg move really easily, how can I offer an opposite equal experience? Like, how can I balance this with muscle tone, with like hugging in? We're gonna switch sides whenever you're ready. You can shake out the legs a little bit. Feel free to keep, you know, if you wanted to keep your right leg in the air a bit longer for a longer hamstring stretch, I don't think you'll be mad about that later on. And then we'll do the second side. So whenever you're ready to bring your left leg in, take as much time as you want to stretch the left leg. And then eventually hands behind your thigh or around your foot, or use something to make your arms longer. A little hammy stretch here. Again, offering yourself that bend and straighten if you're interested. So something about back bending that I think gets overlooked a lot of the times is that when our hamstrings, so our hamstrings are the muscles on the back of our big thigh bone, and when they're tight, they pull the pelvis, and when the pelvis gets pulled, the low back takes a hit. So tight hamstrings can oftentimes mean that the low back, which moves really well, right? We saw how like there's just less in the way of movement in that part of the body, that it gets overworked and it's doing the other part of your body's job, which we don't want. Whenever you're done stretching your hams, feel free to take maybe a happy baby if you want to, or any other legs in the air or knees in the chest. We're gonna come up to our hands and knees. So however you want to get there, we'll come up to tabletop. Feel free to cushion your knees with a blanket. We're gonna move through a little bit of cat and cow, some spinal waves back and forth. And so that's the thing, like when the parts of our body we need to do certain things in, for example, a back bend, are doing other parts of the body's job, then the parts of the body that we actually need to recruit for the action to be like expansive in our bodies, it doesn't get a chance to, because the other part of the body is like taking over. So as you move your spine here, just notice, like, is there a part of your back that always moves first? Can we ask that part of the body to pause, not to not move, but to just listen? Like for me, it's my low back. I know it is. So I'm gonna say, like, low back, you wait. And I'm gonna see if I can get my upper back to round first. If you imagine like a roller coaster, how the first cart pulls the rest, that's a great way to think about back bending from your upper back. The roller coaster cart pulls forward, and eventually the whole rest of my spine follows and rounds. Eventually my tailbone tucks, but it all came from the upper back. And then I'm going to see if I can do the same thing the other way. So I'm going to keep my low back where it is. I'm going to start to melt between my shoulder blades. Oh, low back wants to go really fast. I'm going to hug my low belly in a little. Let the chest melt. Oh. And maybe a couple of times back and forth again. We're coming into downward facing dog when you're ready. And so here in down dog, we'll pedal out the knees a little bit, shift the shoulders around. You can test out your stance length here. Come on forward to plank. And then lower all the way to your belly. Hug your elbows in, lower your chest down. When you get there, release the tops of your feet. I like to lift one foot at a time and kind of like lengthen the front of my body here. Press down through the tops of the legs. Roll your shoulders back. Tuck your chin a little. And then soften everything. Okay. Notice if your low back moved first. Mine did, I'm pretty sure. So before we lift again, ground down through the outer edges of your legs and reach your tailbone towards your heels.
lift your low belly. Notice if your butt cheeks clenched. Let them like shake out the booty a little bit. Soften through the sides of your butt, but reach down through your low back. And then keep all of that hugging in. So find some firmness. So the type of strength that hugs in. Hug your elbows in. Roll your shoulders up. So think about the place where the blanket was at the bottom tips of your shoulder blades. See if that place can actually reach forward. So don't think about lift, think about length. See if you can get that roller coaster car to start to pull forward and get everything else kind of longer. That's it. Maybe you're lifting up a little bit higher, and then eventually exhale, release. Tuck your toes, lift your hips, downward facing dog. Pedal out through your knees if you want. Shift things around. And then again, a little quicker this time. Inhale, come forward to plank. Exhale, lower down slow. Come all the way to the mat. Release the tops of your feet. Roll your shoulders up. A little cobra. Or my body, I mean, like I said, I really like to back bend. So my body was like, back bend, yay! Yours might be like, back bend, no! So move with you. If ever, I'm offering something that you intuitively can tell is not for you, that's actually what we're looking for when we practice, is where we are. So go ahead and take lots of little steps all the way up to the front of your mat. I like to look at this as more back of the leg stretching. So the more I stretch the backs of my legs, the more that'll help my low back relax when I'm trying to move the upper back. So again, I'm just designating, like, I'm reminding my body, like, each part of me has a job to do right now. And not one of them is better or like less than the other. They just need to do what they need to do. The more clear we can be about that, the more defined our muscle actions roles can be, the more access to action, to our own action we have in our bodies. So from your forward fold, just take a couple more breaths. You could sway around a little bit. You could shake out your head and neck. If you want, you could hold the backs of your legs and bend your knees and kind of pull yourself together here. It's a deep one, so, heads up. And then bring your hands on your hips. Press into your feet, stand all the way up. And come up to stand. Okay, I'm gonna move my blanket for a second. So, take a moment and bring your hands on your butt. Fingers towards the floor. I like to say, cop a feel. If that's too creepy for you, think about putting your hands in the back pockets of your jeans. Okay. So from here, push your hands into your hips and let your pelvis come forward. And then kind of back off and don't do that anymore. That's just that wiggly middle low back moving. And that is where most people's bodies will intuitively initiate movement when we talk about back bending, because it's the part that moves the easiest. Now that we're aware of that, let's see, can we get this part of the body to just stay where it is so that we can support the rest of the body moving? Because the thing is the whole body moves, right? We're just trying to initiate that first, like, roller coaster car is really how I envision it in my head. So for that, I actually like to bring my hands in front of my heart because I like to press my thumbs into my sternum. Your sternum is the bone that is in the center of your chest that connects your ribs in the middle. And I like to think about lifting that up because if you look, it's like behind, or in front of or behind your shoulder blades there. So it's that idea of like the upper body lifting. So when you press into your thumbs, if that's what you're doing, you can also put your hands on your chest, You could have elbows out to the side if that's better for you. Take a moment to see like what's your low back doing, and can you lift from the front of your pelvis and reach your tailbone towards the floor. I would hesitate to tuck it under too much because it's just gonna like shift the low back, but think about neutralizing your pelvis. You might already be working and sweating by just doing that action. Good job. From here, lift and spread your toes, charge up the muscles in your legs, and like we were doing with those bend and straighten of the knees on our back, see if you can activate the muscles in your legs to push the floor away. Try to stand up a little taller while you do that. Good job. And from here, keep everything the same. Lift the hips, tuck the tailbone, hug the side bodies, press into the feet, and start to lift your chest up into your thumbs towards the ceiling. Notice if your chin opened up like that. Notice it changed the sound of my voice. Tuck your chin. Try to lengthen out through the sides of your neck. Lift up, up, up into your thumbs. Press down, down, down into your feet. And then go ahead and release. It was probably a really deep back bend, even if it didn't look like it moved a lot. And it's because we had all of the different parts doing their job. That's going to actually encourage more expansion in the body, even if it's like less optical, which is good. That's what we're going for. So we're gonna have robot arms for a second. I got totally distracted by my bad joke. Okay, so shoulder blades together. See if you can get that same sort of action in the body here. So front of the hips lift, tailbone tucks, everything hugs towards center. This time we're rolling the heads of the arm bones back. See if you can bring your low ribs ever so slightly towards your hips just to get more lift from the upper back. Start to curl back through the back of your skull. Try to press your head behind you while keeping the sides of your neck long. And then straighten your arms back behind you. Reach your fingertips. Stand up taller. Yeah, so lengthen out through the tailbone. Curl your shoulders back. Interlace your hands behind the back of your head. Press your skull into your hands. Hug your elbows in. Chin stays a little tucked. Plug the heads of the arm bones in. Lift up through the front of your hips again. Press your head into your hands. And then chin tucks. Come on, back up. Whew. Take a moment to shake it out a little. We're going to do a quad stretch. Okay. We're going to stand on the left leg and bend the right knee. If you want to do the other side, help yourself. We're going to hold. I like to hold right where my ankle meets the top of my foot. I find that foot sometimes is too wiggly and shin is too tight, but your arms and legs, you'll find a good place for that. You want to evert your foot, which means kicking the pinky side of your foot towards your hand and flexing your foot so your foot's not just floppy. From here, hug your inner thighs together. Maybe you walk your hand up your foot a little while keeping it active. Ooh. Hug your inner thighs. Left arm can stay on your hip or you can lift it up in the air. And then tuck your tailbone. See if you can curl your shoulder blades back. Kick your right foot into your hand and try to point your kneecap towards the floor. See if you can get taller. Lift through the front of the hips. Whoo. And then shake it out. Yeah. So you might have noticed that there was actually a lot going on in the standing leg for that. That's good. We are trying to get the whole body together right now. If we were to, and I'll show you on this side, if we were to just like pop, you probably saw it, right? Like I just pop the leg back and it's all low back. I'm actually getting much deeper by doing less, believe it or not. I'm doing more, but it's internal work. It's not necessarily something that you can like see from the outside in, but I don't know about you, but I can certainly feel a difference in my body from the inside out on this side. Or the other side too. Hug your inner thighs together, lift up through the fronts of the hips, roll your shoulders back, kick your foot into your hand, try to lengthen your tailbone. That's it. One more deep breath. And then go ahead and shake it out. Whew. Inhale, arms left. Exhale, forward fold, come all the way back down to the floor. Inhale, lift and extend. And exhale, hands to the mat. Step back to the top of a plank and lower all the way to your belly. Bend your elbows, lower yourself down. When you get there, release the tops of your feet, roll your shoulders back, lift into cobra, and then exhale, tuck your toes, lift your hips, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. A couple of big full breaths. And then bring your right foot forward, back knee to the floor. Feel free to cushion the back knee with a blanket if you want. And lift your chest and shoulders for an Anjaneyasana. So hands can be up alongside your ears. You could interlace your hands behind the back of your head or interlace your hands behind you. Actually, meet me there if you're doing a different version. We're going to interlace our hands behind the back. And again, we're going to see like it's really easy to just collapse into the low back in this shape. So we're going to offer ourselves stability where it's needed, some ease in places it's available, and try to see if the upper back and shoulders can be what gets a little more opening. That's it. Every couple of breaths, I'm going to back off, lengthen the lower back, and then roll the upper back behind me again. One more deep breath. And then exhale, hands down around the front foot, tuck the back toes, lift your leg, extend out through the front knee, come into a pyramid pose, Parshvottanasana. One arm to either side of your front leg, or if you've got blocks or books, or if there's like a chair in front of you that's the right height, help yourself to that. But we're gonna see if we can get length in our low back here. So this is a place where the hamstrings will take the slack from the back. So if you bend your knees a little bit, if you press into the legs, so think about that hamstring stretch we did on our backs. Can you keep pressing the floor away by using the muscles of your legs? Ooh. When you do that, you might feel like you have more space to reach your right hip back, your left hip forward, and then maybe that stability in your legs, maybe even a little bend in your front knee, can offer the rest of your spine a little more space. Well, that's it. One more deep breath. And then rebend your front knee. Step up, standing split, Urdhva Prarsarana, Eka Padasana. Put a little bend in the standing leg so that you can charge it up. Don't worry about how high the back leg goes. See if you can press the floor away with your standing right leg. Almost like you wanted to squeeze your butt to your heel. Like you were gonna make a fist or like a bicep curl. Like you wanted to show off the muscle on the back of your leg. Whew, that'll probably get you sweating. If you're still with me, stretch back through your left lifted leg. Try to charge that one up too. And see if you can use the charge in your legs to fold your upper body a bit deeper. Exhale, forward fold, both feet to the floor. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, release. Press into your feet, stand all the way up, arms lift for the ceiling. And exhale, forward fold, come all the way down to the floor. Hands come to the mat. Step back through your vinyasa. Move things around. Couple of deep breaths. remember that we're connecting to ourselves. And that when we bring awareness to the differentiation in our bodies, we are actually bringing awareness to the unification of our bodies. So when you're ready, left foot or whatever your second side is comes forward, chest and shoulders lift. All right. So this time we're going to interlace the hands behind the back of the head. So before I get back bendy in a pose like Anjaneyasana, which is a back bending pose, I first like to just get tall. I think about Tadasana, neutral spine. And I'm like, okay, can I get a neutral spine here? Because if the answer is no, then maybe I need a different stance. Like maybe I need wider, longer, shorter, toes tucked, untucked. You do you. Once I get there, once I'm like, okay, low back is neutral, core is gently engaged and hugging in, hands come behind the head, then can I use this lower half of the body rooting down to get the upper half of the body moving up and back. So if we think about length like we were on our bellies, I'm not worried about getting to the floor behind me. I'm actually thinking about bringing my chest like towards the ceiling. So with your hands behind your head, hug your elbows in, press your back of your skull into your hands, and then start to lift up, 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 up. Think about like you were curling your shoulder blades over the blanket. Ooh, that's it, deep breath. That's it, me. Deep, full breath. Oh, one more deep inhale, and exhale, chin tucks. Hands come around the front leg. Lift the back knee, reach your hips behind you. Pyramid pose, Parsvottanasana. Fold over your front leg. Deep, full breaths. Maybe focusing on something specific and maybe just taking a moment to breathe or check in with the sound of your breath. Maybe going to a more receptive place for a moment just to see like what is now being offered. And we're going to charge it up. So before you even move, see if you can engage your front leg. Can you press all four corners of your front foot down to charge up the muscles on the back of your left leg and lift the right leg by standing into the left one? I mean, and a lot of times the brain will be like, oh, lift the right leg. And really, it's not like recruiting everything it could. It's just moving from this sort of like limited perspective. And we're really trying to get like a more nuanced perspective. The idea that there are many ways to do many things, that we cannot always all do the same thing at the same time. And when you're ready, feet to the floor, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold back down. Press into your feet. Use pressing into your feet to squeeze your butt towards your heels. Lift your arms towards the ceiling. And exhale, hands alongside your body. Tadasana. All right. So we're going to do a back bend here with our hands on our butts or low backs or maybe thighs, depending on where you end up with it. So we're going to start here. I know for me in this shape, something that gets really tight is my pecs. So like hugging my elbows towards each other, I might have to play around with where my hands go. So you feel free to do that as well. We're going to hug the elbows towards one another. We're going to reach down through the tailbone. So again, neutral pelvis. We're not clenching the butt and hugging forward. We're just firming the outer legs, the outer hips towards the floor. From here, tuck your chin a little, roll your shoulders back, start to lift the front of the chest up towards the ceiling. And then from here, you can maybe, if your body is interested, and so is your brain and your heart, start to walk your hands a little lower down your thighs. But if you did, back it up, reach your tailbone down, tuck your chin, reach your chest up, roll your shoulders back, still hug your elbows together. Ooh, and then maybe you go back a little more or up a little more depending on how it feels. Press into your feet, notice if your knees are locking out. And then whenever you're ready to come up slow by pressing into the feet and tucking your chin. Ground into your feet, keep your legs active even as you come through Tadasana. Whew, and then shake it out a little bit. Maybe a little butt wiggle. Good job. Come down onto your knees. Whew, pop, pop. Water, maybe you want some. I do. We're gonna do a little camel pose. Ustrasana. And then we're gonna do some wheel. So we know where we're going. Scratch that. Come onto your back. We're gonna do a bridge first. So, bridge pose, Setu Bandha Sarvangasana. Knees bent, feet on the floor. Robot arms, bleep bloop. Walk your elbows in a little bit. Press your head and arms into the floor, press into your feet, and without lifting your hips, curl your shoulders behind you. So upper back starts. Okay, we're gonna think about the roller coaster. So the upper back and shoulders is the front car. It leads the way. The power is the legs. So lift and spread your toes and squeeze your butt towards your heels. You're gonna feel your hamstrings charge up. Keep that and engage your core. Woo! Keep that and try to curl your shoulders back more. Press into your feet and lift your hips. That should be your whole body working together. And if something turns off, back off from that place, charge everything else back up, and then see if you can use that stability to find more space. Keep curling your sternum back towards your chin. If you want, you can reach your hands down, or you can interlace your hands underneath your back. Ooh. And then press into your feet, lower your hips down to the floor. Keep the curve in your back. So if we're gonna do more back bending, we don't wanna undo this at this point. So just kind of keep that shape. I like to kind of tap between my eyebrows with my thumbs. Okay. Now we're coming up into a camel pose. So flipsy on upsy to the knees. If you want to cushion your knees with a blanket like I do, help yourself. And I'm going to suggest for tonight, toes tucked under, because it's going to help keep our legs powered up. A lot of times when the feet go flat, they get flop. So we want to have the toes tucked. And again, we want to imagine like we were squeezing our butt towards our heels. So when I say like a bicep curl, like I'm strong, I'm showing my strong. I'm showing my strong, okay. We're trying to do that with the hamstrings on the back of the legs as well. So we're gonna start first. If you wanna just feel what low back feels like, I don't recommend it, but I know personally I learned via negativa. So being like, no, okay, not that. You can have your hands here and curl back this way, or you can have your hands in front of your chest and sternum. That's how I do it, but I know people prefer the butt cop. So if you want to do that, you do that. If you've got your thumbs on your sternum, hug your inner thighs together. Widen your hips back a little bit, and then press down through the outer edges of the legs. Charge up the hamstrings on the backs of your legs to lift up through the front of the hips and down through the tailbone ever so slightly. Start to press up your chest into your thumbs. Roll your shoulders back. Tuck your chin, sides of the neck lengthen. Draw your low belly in. Roll your shoulders back. Press back down into your feet. Curl up towards the ceiling. And then tuck your chin, come on up. Flatten the feet, just sit back on the heels for a second. Okay. So that version of camel is great if you're, like if that's a deep enough back bend for you tonight. And like, trust me, like we don't all need to do the same things. And when we're getting what we need, we don't need to keep looking for it. So if you're like, yes, I am using all of these muscles, my low back feels good, my chest and shoulders are opening, and you might not need to do anything else tonight to feel like you got that. And you might be interested in exploring these edges a little bit more. So just a reminder that it's always an offering and that I like to back bend. So, okay. You can do the same thing. You can just do either thumbs at sternum or hands on buns. If you want to take it a step further, same start. So everything hugs in, roots down. So again, it's not a butt clench. You can probably see it in these pants. Like it's not side to side. It's like down towards the floor. So it's actually glute minimus and medius, not maximus. All right, root down, lift up. See if you can press down into your shins, knees, and feet so much that you start to curl up. Again, when you feel like you get like into it, back out of the low back, roll the shoulders back and insist that the upper back does it. From here, you might want to bring one or both hands to your feet or ankles or blocks if you've got them. In which case, same thing, kind of back off, lengthen, tuck your chin, arch through the upper collarbones and back. And then when you're ready to come up, tuck your chin, root down through the legs, and just pause sitting back on your feet. Again, I like a little tappa here. You might not, you could just do palms up or drink water or whatever. Okay, so, check the time. Okay, come on to your back. So if you're ready to be done with whatever it is I'm about to offer, I'm gonna suggest folding up your blanket or towel and having it under your hips in like a very gentle supported bridge pose. And trust that that's how you're gonna get stronger at back bends, if like that's what's calling your name. If you're still with me, come onto your back. We're starting in bridge pose. Elbows come alongside your side bodies, walk yourself in and under, curl your collarbones back. You could also just stay here and do bridge pose, but if you're looking for a little bit of a deeper back bend, Anjaneyasana, full wheel. You're gonna bring your hands alongside your ears, fingers point back, elbows hug in. If your entire hand is not on the floor, if you cannot grip with all your fingers, and if your elbows are going out side to side, just stay here and work on pressing into your hands and hugging towards center while you curl the upper back and lengthen the lower back. It's actually a really deep, good stretch. If your hands are on the floor and your shoulders are curled, press into your hands, charge up the muscles in your legs, press into your feet, come to the top of your head. Pause there. Walk your hands in a little bit closer towards your feet. Same thing, hug your elbows in, press into your fingers, charge up the legs, back off from the low back, and then hug your elbows towards one another to straighten your arms, press into your legs, try to squeeze your butt towards your heels, and see if you can use that to get your upper back more forward. So low back lengthens, shoulders curl, press into your feet, maybe reaching your chest even further back through your upper arm bones, and then tuck your chin, hug your elbows in, bend them, lower down, and pause. So if you're done back bending, trust that feeling. You are the person you are calibrating to, not me. You could hug your knees into your chest. If you've got one more in you, like I do, we're gonna weave a couple things together. We're gonna go from camel to wheel. If you're like WTF, maybe just watch asana, which is a valid pose. and maybe not today, right? If you're interested, we're gonna start with our toes tucked under, hands in front of the chest. So I'm gonna squeeze my butt towards my heels. I'm gonna lift up through the chest and shoulders. I've got my thumbs in front of my sternum, and I'm gonna start to curl back. So when I see the back edge of my yoga mat, I'm gonna stretch my hands back, and then here's the trick. I'm gonna charge up the legs, I'm gonna reach back, and I'm gonna push into my legs to reach my chest and shoulders through the upper arm bones and come into wheel. Whoo, it was a lot of legs, folks. And then when you're ready, tuck your chin, lower down. You might want to windshield wiper the knees before you hug them into the chest. You might be ready to just hug your knees in your chest. And then if you're meeting up with folks with a blanket under your hips, we'll just take a few minutes to rest. You can do whatever you want with your legs, with your arms. We won't be in Shavasana very long for the sake of the video, but if you don't have to move right now, don't. Just stay put and as long as you want. This will probably not be the most grounded Shavasana of your life. So, instead of wishing it was, instead of like saying that there's something wrong because you're like maybe literally vibrating right now, just listen. Don't try to explain or fix. Just notice. If we move back into that receptive place now that we've been so active, what do we have to learn? What do we have to notice? What happens when we just let ourselves be? Again, please don't move if you don't have to. But if you're ready to roll to one side, you can help yourself up or take any movements on the floor. We'll end up seated. You can let your hands rest in your lap or on your legs. Maybe somewhere in front of your expansive heart. And just a reminder that we cannot be everything, and we are not supposed to be. When we do us the best we can, we're really showing up for everyone the best we can. And thank you all so much for sharing a little of your strength, your personal blend of effort and ease. Hail yourselves. I hope you have an awesome rest of whatever day it is, wherever you are right now.